Hello guys, this is our data visualization final project presentation, and we are Team 7 and our topic called What's Beneath Your Musical History. Do you listen to music often? Have you ever felt that certain songs match your mood, or that you tend to listen to particular types of music when you are feeling a certain way? We started this project with the idea that each person has their own unique music listening pattern. We wanted to visualize these patterns and see whether they could be observed in real data. To do this, we needed two types of data. First, emotional states recorded throughout the day, and second, music listening history. However, we could not find any public data set that contained both types of information. Since our goal was to investigate whether there are patterns between emotions and music listening behavior, and whether these patterns differ from person to person, the four members of our team decided to collect the data ourselves. As shown here, we recorded our emotions every hour through KakaoTalk for 2 weeks. Although we were not always able to record our emotions exactly every hour, all entries were written or recalled within 6 hours of the actual time. Each participant listened to the music as usual using their preferred music applications, such as Apple Music or Spotify's or YouTube Music. We then connected these listening records to Last.fm, which automatically collected and stored the listening histories as a dataset. Now I will introduce how we pre-process our data. Uh, and I would like to show example of the raw data and the processed data. First, for the emotion records collected through KakaoTalk, we exported the chat logs as CSV files using the export chat feature. As you can see, the usernames were not standardized. The records of our four participants were mixed together in chronological order, and a single message often contained emotions from multiple time periods. Using Python regular expressions and several rule-based conditions, we transformed the data into the structured format shown on the right side. Next is the pre-processing of the music listening records. As I introduced earlier, Last.fm provides information such as listening time, song title, artist name, album name, and music text. We use this data directly. However, when music tags were missing or insufficient, we filled them using Spotify's API, which provides both artist genre and music genre information. In addition, we included the BPM data from Song BPM, as we believe it could be useful for further analysis and visualizations. Using the collected and pre-processed data, we create several visualizations to explore the relationships between time, emotion, and music informations.
Have you ever tried tracking your emotions throughout the day, from morning to the afternoon or before you sleep? Our emotions shift multiple times a day. We often let them just pass by unnoticed. Have you ever noticed feeling particularly exhausted or lethargic, or perhaps a pattern in your emotions on certain days? We wanted to visualize those patterns. We visualized these data as a heat map using p5.js. As you can see, the horizontal axis represents times from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m., where each cell corresponds to 1 hour. The vertical axis shows the date ranging from May 19th to June 2nd from top to bottom. The key lies in the color of each cell. A darker color signifies a positive emotions closer to 5 points. Think feelings like happiness, excitement. Conversely, a lighter color represents a negative emotion closer to 1 point, such as fatigue or stress. White cells indicate times when there is no recorded emotions. If you hover your mouse over a cell, a tooltip will display the exact emotion and score for that time. So moving to the website, yeah, reading it is simple. scan a row horizontally to see the flow of emotion for that day, or look down a column to find recurring patterns at specific times. If the 2 to 3 p.m. slot is consistently light in color, it means that when your energy regularly dips. So, emotions are subjective, but when you track them, they become patterns. By visualizing those patterns, I was able to discover my own rhythm that I hadn't realized before. Next is a stream graph using tags, which shows how your music genre listening habits have changed over time. Have you ever found yourself obsessed with a specific genre or suddenly experienced a shift in your taste? We wanted to visualize that flow. So let's take a look at the visualization. The horizontal axis represents the date, with the left side being the start of the period and the right being the end. Instead, the thickness of each color band indicates how much you listen to that genre on that day. The thicker the band, the more you listened. So moving to the website, this chart isn't just a static image. If you hover over a band, only that genre is highlighted, and the tooltip shows the genre, song, and artist. If you move left or right within a band, it shifts to show the songs you listened to earlier or later. We designed it so you can trace your own music history chronologically. If you look at the chart, you see sections where it narrows. This isn't just a design choice, it's a reflection of the actual data. When there are days with a little music listening, the whole chart thins out. When you listen a lot, it expands. Also, we applied a silhouette offset method to make it spread out above and below a central axis. This creates a flowing butterfly-like shape, making it easy to see at a glance which genres are central. So we created individual visualizations for 4 people using the same structure. As you can immediately see, for some, the chart is dominated by a single color. For others, the genres flip daily, and some shows a distinct pattern of binge listening on certain days. The shape of that chart itself becomes a reflection of that person's unique listening style. And next, let Seungjae tell us about the third visualization.
For analyzing 2 weeks of music listening data, our team arrived at one central question. What is the relationship between the traits of the music we listen to, specifically BPM and genre, and our emotional state? To answer this, we cross-referenced each team member's BPM, music text, and emotional score data and visualized it as an interactive heat map. The key to reading the heat map is the color intensity of each cell. The more a person listens to music in that BPM range or genre under a given emotional state, the darker the cell. The less they listened, the lighter it appears. When you hover over a cell, a pop-up appears showing the representative track's title, artist, and BPM. Looking at each heat map, the x-axis represents the emotional score, ranging from 1 to 5. A score of 1 means 많이 힘들어요, while a score of 1 means 많이 힘들어요, while a score of 5 means 매우 좋아요. In the BPM heat map, the y-axis is divided into BPM ranges from 60 to 80, labeled very slow, all the way up to 180 to 110, labeled very fast, 7 ranges in total. In the tag heat map, the y-axis represents genre tags, organized based on what each person actually listens to. Let's start with the BPM and emotional score heat map. For Seungjae, the 120 to 140 BPM range, mid-tempo, appears consistently dark at both score 2 and score 4. This suggests he tends to listen to mid-tempo music regardless of his emotional state. Notably, score 1 is almost entirely empty, meaning he barely listened to music when feeling at slowest. For Seungju, The 180 to 110 BPM range, very fast, is overwhelmingly dark at score 4. This shows a clear tendency to gravitate towards high-energy music while in a positive mood. For Taeyeon, the overall data volume is quite small. There's no strong concentration in any particular emotional state, suggesting that music listening itself was infrequent throughout the 2 weeks. For Ki-1, we see the most evenly distributed pattern. Color appears across multiple BPM ranges at score 2 and score 4, indicating that his listening habits were relatively independent of his emotional state. Now let's look at the tag heat map. For Seungjae, K-rock and K-pop tags appear most prominently when his emotional score is 4 or 5, the positive range. This suggests he tends to reach for Korean music when he is in a good mood. Hip-hop, on the other hand, appears more consistently across emotional states. For Seungju, the rock tag dominates almost every score level. Regardless of how he's feeling, rock was a constant. It's essentially rock at almost every emotion. For Taeyeon, with relatively few data points overall, the heatmap centers around K-hip-hop and hip-hop. Hip-hop is most concentrated at score 5, suggesting a pattern where she primarily listened to music when feeling her best, and within a limited set of genres. For Ki-1, the tag distribution is the most diverse of the 4. Genres like R&B, instrumental, hip-hop, J-pop, and K-hip-hop all appear across multiple emotion scores. He listened to the most music overall and explored the widest variety of genres, largely independent of his emotional state. This is what sets him apart most clearly from the rest of the team.
We visualize the same data in 3 different ways. The first one looks at the relationship between the time and emotions. It let us see how our feelings change throughout the day. However, since it only focuses on showing the distribution of emotions, it lacks deeper analysis. The second one looks at the relationship between the time and music. We tracked what kind of music we listen to over time, but we can clearly see the flow of music, but it is difficult to analyze the emotion alongside it. The third one looks at the relationship between emotions and music. We converted emotions into numbers to analyze the correlation with BPM and music tag. However, we faces the limitations. The process of condensing various features of music into a single axis led to information loss. And this single visualization was unable to fully and comprehensively capture the relationship between music and emotion. All 3 visualizations provide meaningful insight in their own ways. However, our main goal was to see the relationship between music and emotion, which requires 3 conditions to be met at the same time. First, we need to see individual patterns intuitively. Second, we need to be able to compare them with others using the standardized axis. And the third, we need to be able to perform detailed analysis. The previous visualizations each had some drawbacks, making it hard to satisfy all 3 requirements at once. Therefore, we make the final visualization. This is why we choose the core diagram. A core diagram is a way to visually show the relationship between data points in a matrix. We place the data in a circle and connect the relationship between them with lines, which we call ribbon. To create this diagram, we went through 3 steps of data preparation. First, we mapped the emotions into 6 categories. We grouped about 50 original emotional labels, including spelling, variation, and typos, into 6 categories based on their meaning. The second, we normalize the tag. We integrate synonyms from Last.fm tags and filter out the noise tag that were not meaningful for our analysis. Third, we create a co-occurrency matrix. We identify tracks played during a time. A specific emotion was recorded and add 1 for each tag associated with that track, creating a matrix by counting how often emotion and music appear together. Now let's look at how to read this chord diagram. The left semicircle represents the 6 motion categories, each with its own unique color. The right semicircle shows the top 14 music mood and genre tags, marked as gray, and the arc length of each item represented its frequency. A longer arc means the emotion or genre appeared more often. Then the thickness of the ribbon connecting two items represent their co-occurrency frequency. A thicker ribbon means the emotion and music appear together more often. The color of the ribbon follows the color of the starting emotion, making it naturally to read as music that follows from this emotion. Additionally, you can hover your mouse over each ribbon to click the exact co-occurrency count and the music you listen to. Also, everyone shares the same emotion and the tag access, which allows you to place different people's patterns into a same space and compare them directly. Throughout this, we were able to create a visualization that let you intuitively see individual patterns, compare them with others on the unified axis, and perform detailed analysis through interaction. So let's look at the website. As you can see here, you can interact with each ribbons, and the ribbon provide the detailed analysis, like how often this happened and what music you listen. So you can see each feelings and also the tag by clicking, and you can compare the same axis with other people to see how your listening pattern is different from others.
Of course, this project also has several limitations. First, there is the issue of missing data. Although we aim to collect emotional records on an hourly basis, it was difficult to log every moment in real time. Some entries were instead reconstructed within a maximum of 6 hours. As a result, parts of the data rely on memory, which means the accuracy of the recorded emotions cannot be fully guaranteed. Second, there is a limitation in data collection period. The data set was collected over a relatively short period of about 2 weeks. Therefore, it is insufficient to capture long-term emotional patterns in music preferences. And there is a possibility that temporary states during this period are overrepresented. Lastly, there is a limitation in sample size. This project is based on data from only 4 participants, which makes it difficult to generalize the findings or derive statistically significant conclusions. In other words, the results should be understood not as universal laws, but rather as a case study exploring individual patterns. While this project may not offer collective statistical analysis, it provides an intuitive visualization of distinctive patterns on how each individual interacts with music in their daily lives. The dataset revealed 4 unique listening patterns in the same 2-week period. However, they all produced emotional fingerprints. The tempo someone reaches for and the genre they return to again and again. Our team concluded in this project that when selecting music in our daily lives, music selection and emotions are connected. but the shapes of the connection is uniquely different for every person. Thank you.